this movie, that's absolutely fine. I think you will come to know the story as the presentation ends. Obviously, I'm not going to rehearse the story, but whatever conversation I'm going to make, I'm sure you will understand what the story of this movie is all about. And one homework I would like to give to people who have not watched this movie, please watch this movie. I'm telling you, it will give you a lot of tips on how to become an agile coach, how to become a transformation leader, and most importantly, what servant leadership is all about. So with that, let me move ahead. So those are my coordinates. As you can see on the screen, I'm on LinkedIn, not that much active on Twitter, although I'm sharing my Twitter ID, but not that much active on Twitter. And of course, I also have a YouTube channel where a lot of these videos would get broadcasted and published. So in case anyone is interested to subscribe to my YouTube channel and see more such videos, I will share the link of the YouTube channel at the end of the session. So right now I have kept all of you on mute, but I will open up for Q&A as we move ahead, right? So as and when there's an opportunity, I will open up for Q&A session. And I would also like to have a very candid feedback from all of you about how this session went, right? So, I mean, we always believe, right, retrospective, inspect and adapt. So how do we inspect and adapt and make it more better, right? So that's what the intent is. So let me quickly open up a quick poll, and I would like you to answer these two questions. So I've opened up a poll. And if you could just answer these two questions, very simple, straightforward questions. I hope you can see the poll which is there on your screen. This is just to give me an idea that, okay, what's the pulse of the crowd? Okay, some interesting analytics coming out. 43% of the people have not watched the movie. So I think, yes, one takeaway would be, please go and watch this movie. Well, I'm pretty sure you will get a lot of insights. You will get a lot of learnings from what servant leadership is all about. I'll just keep the poll open for a couple of more minutes. We have around 21 participants, but I see only 10 people have voted so far. So I would like to get a right set of insights into it. Oh, now the situation has changed. It's 50-50. As more and more people are voting, the trends are changing. Okay, good, good. So we'll wait for a few more minutes. Just few seconds, sorry, not minutes. So we still have 8 people who are yet to vote. So if you can vote, this vote is confidential and it's not anything secret what we are asking here. We are just asking your views on whether you have watched this movie and whether you think that servant leadership is something which you can learn out of it. Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I mean, if the answer to the first one is no, but yeah, I'm sure you would have read, right? I mean, in case you have read, you can always say that it is no. I mean, yes or no. I mean, so this is Zoom polling, so I think we can't apply the validation out there. But thanks, Lusa, for pointing it out. I think I'll definitely take that as a feedback. Okay, so I'm closing the polling in the interest of time. We have 17 out of 22 people who have voted. So 56% of you have watched this movie. Great. Nice to know that. And 44% have a task at hand then. Please go and watch this movie. I'm sure you will enjoy this movie. And it's actually translated in many languages. It's not just in English language. It is translated in many dialects and language, this movie. And 78% of the people voted saying that they do think that this movie has got attributes of servant leadership, right? So I'll just share the results with all of you. This is the results what you are getting, what we have here. So this is 56% of the people have watched the movie. 78% think that yes, this movie has got attributes of servant leadership. So thanks all for appearing on this poll and sharing us the insights about what you felt about the movie. So let me start my conversation. Let me start my conversation with what servant leadership is all about, right? What is it all about? How did it evolve? And most pertinent question, what are the servant leadership traits? So if I want to become a servant leader, what are those traits which are needed in me? Do I need to remold my personality? Do I need to reboot my brain? Or do I need to reboot my thinking process? All that we will be talking about in next 20 to 25 minutes all, right? So coming to this movie Lion King, just to give a snapshot of this movie, it's a story of a king who loses his kingdom, and how the other planets, how the other animals from the planet actually help this king gain his due recognition and his due position. So it's about, this movie starts with a senior lion, as you can see there, and he gives birth to a son who's naturally going to be the king. But as what happens in any movie, right, there are villains, there are people who are scheming bad things, there are plotters, and this young cub is forced to spend his life in exile. But then how the other animals come together and fight it out and give this young cub his due recognition of a kingdom is what this movie is all about. So those of you who have watched this movie, I'm sure you would have heard this quote in that movie. The quote says, everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. As a king, you need to understand that balance and respect all the creatures, from the crawling ant to the leaping antelope. Just because I am a king of the jungle doesn't mean that I'm going to eat every animal. Respect. This movie actually talks about respect, that how as servant leader we should give respect to all the species, right? The same thing applies in our world. See, I always believe that if you as a coach want to earn respect in a team, you have to first give respect. You can't expect from day one the team is going to give you respect, because the off repeated dialogue you will always hear is that, you know what, things are working fine, so why should we listen to you, right? I mean, what is it that you're going to bring to the table, right? I always believe that two things: one is give respect to earn respect, also respect what they are doing, don't ridicule them. You might find very strange things when you go into a transformation. For example, I remember from my example, the one of the, I would say, early transformation, and I mean, when I look at it back now, I feel very I mean, I get very amused by that thing which was happening. This team was actually doing a minutes of meetings of its stand up, the daily stand up meeting, which was 15 minutes. One person used to spend 7.5 minutes to document its minutes of meeting. Now, as a coach, I would have easily said, please stop it from tomorrow. But I did not do that, because remember, respect. Respect why they are doing. Try to understand the reason. Respect roles, respect hierarchy, respect their ways of working. And then slowly you change the narrative. Slowly you bring about a change. Change is never going to be, I would say, immediate. Change will always take long time to deliver. Remember this. It's never going to be a big bang approach, at least from a coaching and a transformation perspective. So the important message which is coming from this movie is that if as a king I don't respect my subjects, I have no right to expect respect from them to me. So respect what they are doing, they will in turn respect you, right? So this is what is one of the first, I would say, anecdote from that movie. And another anecdote which is coming up in that movie quite often is, while others search for what they can take, a true king searches for what he can give. Always remember that agile coaching or any transformation engagement you are in, it's an investment. If you don't invest, you are not going to get any returns out of it, right? I've seen many coaches who fail because they just sit there. I mean, they don't, with due respect, they don't actually invest in that account. They don't invest in that engagement. So you have to invest in that engagement, and you have to see that at the end of the day, how many things you have been able to give to the team, and how many things have you taken from the team, right? So at the end of it, it's always going to be an empty plate. You enter into a coaching engagement with an empty plate, you exit out with an empty plate. But what you earn in that coaching engagement, all you have to give it. It's like our life. Whatever money I'm going to earn in this life, I'm not going to take away, right? I entered this world with empty hands. I will be exiting out of this world with an empty hand. I always try to compartmentalize this statement in an agile coaching world, that when I go into an engagement, I go with absolutely empty, fresh perspective and an empty mind. I learn something, I create some enrichment content for the team, but I should not be taking it along with them. I should be giving it to them and then exiting out of that engagement. So a true king is someone who actually gives more than what he actually takes from his or her subject. So these are some of the very, very powerful dialogues in this movie, The Lion King, which actually makes this a classic case study for a servant leadership role. Like, if one wants to really learn servant leadership, I would say don't read any other literature. I mean, yes, I mean, if you're an avid reader, do read what Robert Greenleaf talks about servant leadership, his pioneering theory in 1970. But just this movie, it's a funtainment. It's fun plus entertainment plus learning. All the three things you will get in this movie. And these are just some of the snippets, or these are just some of the dialogues from the movie which I have actually placed in here. Okay, so now setting up some context around servant leadership, I have tried to put in pictures of some of the personalities who I feel are true representations of servant leadership style. As you can see, we have the father of India, father of nation India, Mahatma Gandhi, the pioneer of the Black Rights Movement, Martin Luther King, the pioneer of removal of apartheid, Nelson Mandela. I mean, these are from the political and social figures. From the corporate world, the best example I could think of was of J.R.D. Tata, the creator of Tata Group of companies. And then, of course, Steve Jobs, I mean, the way he actually created Apple. And the last picture, what you see at the bottom, many people in India already know that personality. It's Anna Hazare, right? So these are, I would say, some of the prime examples of servant leadership. Anna Hazare, just for people who are not aware, is a social reformer, and he has been fighting corruption for almost last 40 to 50 years now, right? And it's a struggle. He also says it's a journey. It is not going to happen one fine day. It's a journey, and yeah, he's fighting for that, right? India against corruption, what the movement what he launched. So when we talk about servant leadership, it's a leadership philosophy where I, as a leader, I'm encouraging my team members to grow. I want my team members to flourish. I want my team members to learn. I want my team members to enrich themselves. So again, coming back to that Lion King movie dialogue, what is it that as a leader I can give to my team? Is it empowerment? Is it knowledge? Is it a culture? Is it mindset? What is it that I can give to my team? And I should be giving it to my team so that they learn, they actually take the charge of the situation. It's not me who is at a positional power, it's me at a facilitational power. I'm not at a positional power, I'm at a facilitational power. The power which I need to utilize is a facilitational power, because if I grow people, then automatically my organization will grow. Automatically my organization would become one of the most respected and one of the most sought after organization in the world. Now, servant leaders always believe in the philosophy employees first, customers second. We all have heard this, right? Customer is king. I think all of us have heard this adage, customer is king. I would say no, it's not the customer who is king. It is employee who is king. If employee is king, automatically they will take care of our customers and clients, right? So there's a very famous philosophy also on this. There's a very famous philosophy. There's a book written by those of you who would have worked in HCL would know the name I'm referring to. Vineet Nair is the person who has written this book, Employees First, Customers Second. How to turn conventional management upside down. Now, obviously, it's very easy for me to talk in forums like this. It is very easy for me to talk in conferences and events. But the pertinent question everyone will have is that servant leadership, does it really work? Or is the grass always greener on the other side? I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm saying that, you know what, yeah, let's follow servant leadership because it works. And then you said, no, it works in your environment. It does not work in my business. My business is totally different. So let's try to understand whether servant leadership really works, or it is just a myth. At the end of the day, is it just a myth, or does it really work? Okay, so let's try to understand that. So I was talking about this book by Vineet Nair, Employees First, Customers Second, Turning Conventional Management Upside Down. Has anyone read this book? You can just put it in the chat window because I'll be quoting some examples from this book. So one of the examples which Vineet Nair gives in his book, I'm sure many people who have read it know this. He says that whenever a customer visit used to happen, we as a leadership team took a call that we are not going to have the first meeting with them. The first meeting of the customer will happen with our developers, with our QAs, right? That is the first meeting we would be having, not with the leadership team. And he gives an example where one customer had almost decided not to award contract to HCL. But you know what? Vineet Nair just told that client that just spend 2 hours with our development team in their development center. And after 2 hours, the customer comes and says, Vineet, I have decided this order is coming to HCL way. So what I'm trying to tell here is employees are your biggest asset. And that's why they say employees first, customers second. Same thing what Richard Branson is also saying, right? Clients do not come first. It's a myth that customers first, employees second. No, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will automatically take care of the clients, right? You don't have to really worry about it. My leadership team does not have to really worry about it, because if my employees take care of my clients, if I take care of my employees, sorry, is they will take care of my, right? So that's what we call it as turning conventional management upside down. That is what we call it as the employees first, customers second philosophy, which is based on servant leadership. So we do have industry use cases where this has been applied. And then a very famous book, I'm sure many of you would have read it, Leaders Eat Last. So as a leader, I am the last person to get a benefit out of it. The first right of benefit goes to my employees, whether it's profitability, whether it's bonuses, the first right of that goes to my employees, because these are my frontline warriors. These are my frontline warriors who are going to increase the share price of my company. These people are going to increase my revenue over a period of time. So employees first, customers second is the core philosophy on which HCL entirely changed its way of approach, and it definitely helped them grow in their business. Okay, moving ahead, another interesting observation. Those of you would have read this book, Reinventing Organization. It talks about various types of organizations which exist. There are organizations which actually are very, very command and control oriented. At the same time, there are organizations which are called as teal organization, TEAL, teal. This color is, it's a color coded. So this is called as a teal organization. So what are these organizations all about? So red color organizations are heavily dependent on command and control. They don't trust their employee, and typically you will find such behavior in mafia organization. This book talks about them, right? You all know mafia, right? The old Italian mafia, which actually used to control all the drugs and elite trading in that country. So that kind of a structure exists in a red color organization, right? So you have to identify the patterns before. This is just a general tip I'm giving, not related with servant leadership. Let's say you get an offer from a company. You have to clearly understand which zone is it falling. Is it a red color organization? Better stay away from it, because obviously it has got all the attributes of power, fear, danger, chaotic, right? Things are not at all process oriented. So be careful of such organizations. Then we have yellow color organization, which are purely hierarchical based. There's a job stability in those organizations, but there's a command and control, strong processes, typically government organization or traditional churches or public schools. Those come under that category as per Frederick Lalox. Then we have the the orange color organization. Orange color organizations are organizations which are in a cutthroat market. There's a lot of competition. So you will have multiple such organization. Organization A also having the same product. Organization B also having the same product. And the employees in this organization, although they are working on an innovative product, but also remember the fact that there is a lot of competition in these organizations, like universities competing with each other. That please, in universities competing and asking students to join their particular course, right? Between X university and Y university, there always will be a cutthroat competition which will be there. Now, these are very normal organizations, red, yellow, and orange. I mean, you'll find across the globe such organization. But what really differentiates are the next two level of organizations, green organizations. Green organizations are one where they empower their employees. Okay, so they don't concentrate the decision making at the hands of the CEO or the CIO. This is an organization which actually empowers its employees. The focus is on culture over strategy, and the focus is on employee engagement. The best example you can get of a green organization is a famous ice cream chain, Ben and Jerry. So Ben and Jerry's ice cream chain is a best example of a lean organization, what you have. And then on top of it, you have a teal organization. A teal organization is an organization which is anti-fragile organization. What is anti-fragile? Come what may be, this organization bounces back, whether it is COVID, whether it is any other crisis. These are the organizations which bounces back. They lay a lot of stress on servant leadership, they lay a lot of stress on distributed decision making, and they work on the belief that give decision making power to the people who are at a ground level, because they are in a best position to take decisions. So any guesses which organization could be there in a teal? Any guesses anyone has? Okay, any guesses anyone has which could be an example of a teal organization, in case you have read this book? Anyone knows this? I mean, it's Pantamonia. It's a global retail organization called Pantamonia. Then Southwest Airline was there for some point in time in the teal organization. So what they and say is that it's servant leadership is not something attribute of a leader. I mean, yes, I mean all of us know what servant leadership is. What I'm trying to tell here is even the organization has to enable that culture. The organization also needs to enable that culture as a part of a servant leadership attribute, if I were to talk about it, right? So it's not just one-sided, I would say, initiative from the employee side. It is something even which organizations need to work on it. Okay, so this is a kind of a model which I have tried to place about what servant leadership is and what are the critical attributes of a servant leader. So as a servant leader, what attributes I need to have? So definitely what's needed is a coaching skill. What's needed is a safety net. What's needed is humbleness. What's needed is celebration, giving team its recognition, a culture of openness and transparency, and a motivator. So I feel these 6 things are the key attributes for a person to be, I would say, a successful servant leader in the world where we are living. So let's try to understand one by one what these attributes are all about. I always feel that a servant leader is a coach to the team. A servant leader is someone who's a friend, philosopher, and a guide, and a person who can help the team, in realizing its maximum potential. We all know what coaching is all about, right? The job of coach is not to teach. The job of coach is to extract the better performance. And I feel that as a servant leader, I need someone like a person. If I'm going to be a servant leader, I need to be someone who will make sure that I ask those open-ended probing questions, right? We all talk about coaching as open-ended probing questions. And as a servant leader, I feel that if I want to make sure that the team does the best to its capability, I should be actually making sure that I ask those questions. I play that role of a coach. So one of the fundamental aspects of a servant leader is a good mentor, a good coach to the team or to the people whom you are coaching. This is one of the very vital attribute of servant leadership, is what I feel. The second most important thing is that as you can see the quote, right? The interesting thing about coaching is that you have to trouble the comfortable, right? Coaching is not an easy task. You have to bring the people out of their comfort zone. And one of the challenges which we face in the world we live in is that no one wants to leave their comfort zone. Okay, no one wants to leave their comfort zone because everyone is happy there. By the way, this quote is from Rick Charlesworth, who was the coach for Australian hockey team. This quote is from him. The interesting thing about coaching is that you have to trouble the comfortable and comfort the troubled. You have to, which is what brings to my next point, right? You have to also comfort the people who are little dejected, people who are little afraid of taking risks. And that's the dual responsibility of a coach. So as you can see, it's a fine balancing act which we as coaches need to do in any transformation engagement. The next thing which a coach needs to give is give that safety net or a cushion. Many times we see people are willing to do that experimentation, but they are fearful of taking that experimentation, and they come back to their comfort zone. They don't want to tread into the fear zone. So as we know, right, the classic theory, comfort zone comes first, then fear zone, then learning zone, and then growth zone. But because they are afraid of failure, they are afraid of fear, they tend to come back to the comfort zone. And the reason for that is because our leadership is not protecting them. So if there's a god forbid there's a blunder, the first thing which we as leaders do, and I'm including myself also in my earlier command and control days before I moved into an agile coaching world, even I was I can very openly say, even I used to do that. Immediately start blaming the team member. No, give him that comfort the troubled, as Rick Charlesworth says, right? You have to comfort the trouble, you have to give that cushion, you have to give that safety net to your employees, that come what may be, go ahead and do that trapeze act. I am there as a safety net at the bottom. Nothing will happen to you. I will make sure that there is not a single bruise or a scratch on your body. That's the assurance which I need to give. So am I as a leader willing to give that safety net? Right? Safety isn't expensive, it is priceless, and you have to give that priceless treasure to your team members. As I said, you always, and as a coach, as a servant leader, you have to always give something extra. You have to always give something enriching to your team members before you go out of that coaching engagement. So safety is not just expensive, it is priceless. And please make sure that you provide that cushion, you provide that I would say safety net, so that even if that experiment goes wrong, there is someone to protect. Remember, your team members are looking forward to you. Moment you tell them that you are a coach for the team, they are looking forward for you for that cushion. That they may not tell it explicitly, but they are looking forward for you as that safety net or a cushion to be fall apart on. A true leader always has to be humble and grounded, right? If I'm a servant leader, admit mistake, right? I mean, yes, all of us make mistake. Why are people not owning up mistake, rather blaming each other, right? Have that human sense, have that conviction to say that yes, it was a mistake or a blunder from my side. So someone who's a humble, a very very down to earth personality, I would say that's also one of the critical attributes of a servant leader, what is required, right? Someone who's very grounded, someone who's very very humble. And as a very famous author has said, being courageous is being having grace under pressure. So courage is always having grace under pressure. Don't unnecessarily get panic. Yes, all of us are in a high pressure environment. Who in this world is not in a high pressure environment? But what stands a leader from another set of people is being gracious. And that is the attribute of courageous, not adapting any violent means. But courage is grace under pressure, by a very famous author, Ernest Hemingway. He makes that statement, and that's a very apt statement. Like, as a servant leader, I need to be very very grounded. I mean, I might be looking at the horizon, but my feet have to be firmly grounded, so that anything goes wrong, I'm back to my roots as such. The next important attribute of a servant leadership is encourage acts of celebration. Wherever the team is successful, give them that celebration moment, give them that aha moment of coaching, as we say, right? So are we giving them? Own up failures, own up failures. And this is a very great picture of celebrating success. This is from Empire State Building. I see this picture in a different way altogether. Okay, I see this picture in a way that this is a team which has actually built this beam. And you know what? This team is demonstrating to the world that this is a beam under construction on a 130-story building. We are sitting there and we are telling you how much is the stress test of this beam. Come what may be, this beam is not going to fall down. That's the confidence which the team is showing. Can we show such confidence about the code which is going to go into the production environment, that there will be zero defects? Can we give that amount of confidence to our leaders, right? I mean, this is what a servant leader should inspire in a team, that they say that, you know what, this is what we are telling to the entire world, that this is a product what we have built, and based on this product, we are guaranteeing you that nothing wrong will go on this. By the way, this is a true picture. There is no trick photography in this picture. I've verified the source. It was published in Time magazine, I think in 1930s somewhere, where a group of workers were seen enjoying lunch break on the beam which they actually constructed, right? Own up failure as a servant leader, but also encourage your team to challenge themselves and outperform themselves. After all, that is what is a high performing agile team, right? What is a high performing agile team? A team which is confident about its delivery, a team which is confident about the product it has built, a team which is loving its product. How many of us, I'm talking more from a team member's perspective, actually go back and see that what happened to that beautiful product which I developed? How many people are using it? What is the feedback what I'm getting? Are people still using that product, or they are still using that feature, or they have stopped using that feature, or are they asking for an enhancement? I think we should ask these questions, right? I mean, yes, sprint, daily scrum, these things will keep on happening, retrospective, reviews, etc. But why not have those conversations with our customers, with our real-time end users about the beautiful products what all of us are developing, right? So this is what we call as celebrating the beautiful and wonderful products what you are developing, right? So that's what is another quality which a servant leader should have. He should motivate his team to actually build world-class products, if I were to say. And then, of course, the very famous quote, diamonds are nothing more than chunks of coal that got stuck to their jobs, right? That stuck to their job, right? At the end of the day, everything is coal, right? I mean, those of you who have studied chemistry know this. Diamond is nothing but a carbon element, right? But it is something more, right? The value of a diamond will only come when that carbon, the black carbon, is actually shined up, right? And then that value, the business value enhancement, right? We always talk about it. How can I even make a small ATM cash withdrawal, which is a black coal, into a diamond? I think that's what we need to encourage our team members to think about it. A culture of openness and transparency. As a servant leader, I should also be willing to receive feedback. There could be some very critical feedback about my way of working, my style. Please be open for it, because at the end of the day, as I said, if you want to earn respect, you have to give respect, right? To earn respect, you have to give respect to your teams, right? So a culture of openness, a culture of, I would say, open and a candid feedback. And as the quote says, it takes a lot of courage to show your dreams to someone else, right? Only if you're transparent, you will come to know the aspirations of your team members. You will come to know what they are looking for, what are the challenges they are facing. So that is what we call as courage, right? I mean, do we have the courage to open up? How transparent are we? I forgot to tell you one more thing. In a teal organization, the level of transparency is such that employees actually know each other's salary. Okay, so if we are working in a teal organization, you will know what is the salary which I am getting. I will also know what is the salary what you are getting. That's the kind of openness and transparency these organizations follow. A teal organization, to be very, very specific. So a culture of openness and transparency, and of course it's not going to happen from day one. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of trials and error before people actually open up. And of course, a servant leader has to be a motivator. Not all the days are same, right? There are some dull moments in a team's life. There are some good moments. So how do we actually bring about that cheerfulness? And the the servant leader here is a person, I call it as a CMO, Chief Motivating Officer. This person is the one who has to keep the batteries charged up already. So if there are dull moments, there's an escalation from the customer, things are not moving ahead, there's a defect leakage into the production, this is a person who will actually cheer up the team. This is a person who will say that, oh, come on, yeah, I know, I understand this is a major issue what we have been facing, but let's cheer up, right? Let's go for a coffee. Let's go for a quick coffee and come back, and then let's all together work towards it, right? So the Chief Motivating Officer, as I said, something like this: just when the caterpillar thought that the world was ending, he turned into a butterfly. right? You never know. There's always every cloud has got a silver lining, as they say, right? There's always going to be light at the end of the tunnel, right? That's what we need to understand. That's I mean, this chief motivating officer, that's what we say are the attributes of a servant leader. So if you look at it, what I have tried to classify is, are these 6 kind of attributes which I feel will make all of us a great servant leader. How do I convert myself from a good to great servant leader? I have just tried to list down some of the attributes which I have been working upon for last few years. I won't claim here in this forum that I'm reached the and the heights of servant leadership. No, I'm also learning like you people. Still, I make some mistakes, but admit those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then move ahead and continue the journey. So it's a journey. It's not a destination. Going into that servant leadership zone is a journey. It's not a destination. And we all have to go through that journey. Some of us are maybe walking fast, some of us might be walking slow. So the whole intent of having this conversation was around that how we can actually make that journey on a fast track, and how do we learn along this journey. So with that, I end my presentation, and I'm now opening up for any questions if anyone has. So you can unmute yourself and you can ask. Just request you to respect because we have a lot of participants in the call. So one by one you can ask questions.
Ashutosh,
Yes,
I am Datta Chaudhary.
yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So question is regarding the servant leadership. What are the cultural things needs to change for the legacy organization to make it happen? We have talked about the leadership at a human level, right? That is a CEO, CXO, and everybody and all that. And it looks like that by virtue of your examples, it shows it is a top-down approach required to bring the changes. It's not a bottom-up, correct? Teams
It's
need
both
to be
ways. It's
energized, is
both
to
ways.
be
I would say.
motivated.
So sorry for interrupting. It's both ways. It's not just top down. It is bottom up approach. Both.
Okay. So specifically, what are the cultural changes needs to be done in the organization as a legacy organization if I want to move to servant leadership?
No, so as I said, right, I mean, at an organization level, as you can see in this book, which I'm projecting the slide, it talks about the same thing. There's a change management which is required even at an organization level. It's not just it's not just that suddenly I say on a Monday morning that I'm going to be servant leader. Let's all be servant leader. It's a middle management. It's an organization. First of all, there has to be a commitment from your leadership team in the organization that they are in line with this philosophy, because like in the case of HCL, right? It was Vineet Nair. It was not only Vineet Nair who said that I want to be a servant leader. Even the middle management had to undergo the change management process. Even the, I would say, the junior leadership, the project leadership, all those people, they had to undergo that entire change management mindset. So it doesn't happen at one end. The tunnel has to be dug from both the sides of the mountain. And we have to ensure that both the tunnels actually coincide with each other. They don't go in a zigzag fashion.
Yeah. But at community or society or other areas, this looks a perfect model. But as far as the industrial development or the organization is concerned, do you think it is a possible way of doing the things that way?
No, that's what the examples are from the use cases, right? I mean, Southwest Airline, Pentagoya, Ben and Jerry's, they have implemented this model. So obviously, these are companies which are selling products, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Anyone? Mercy, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you, Mercy. Yeah.
I want to say thank you for the presentation. To be honest, one thing that I'll take away is that it's a two-way street. It's not just one-sided. Both participants, both from the leadership and the what you call it, it's a two-way street. It's not just I want to be a servant leader. You must be receptive to all of the feature, being humble, being the coach, motivating the team. You have to be receptive to that, because if you're not, if there's friction, it can never make you work. I mean, what would you say to that?
Yes, absolutely right. That's what I said. I mean, it will never work from one side. It has to be a both way connection. and then only we can say that our organization has moved into that servant leadership mindset or the servant leadership culture. So yes, I'm with you. I mean, it cannot be just one way. Yeah, it has to be on both the sides, I would say.
Okay, Ashutosh, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to being the both way of this servant leadership model to operate effectively, how do you enroll your top management in terms of getting into the mode of a servant leadership, or the top management to the junior management? The enrollment is the biggest issue.
Sorry, what you're saying? What is the biggest issue?
Enrollment to the approach of this servant leadership. No, how to enroll?
See, I
Because
always believe. Yeah,
just
I got your
talking.
point. I got your point. I got your point now. Yeah. So what I'm saying here is, it will not going to happen from the first day. As I said, you have to. I famously use this word, which is called a, yeah, I call this word as rinse and repeat. I call this word as rinse and repeat. You have to demonstrate it at periodic intervals. You have to give them use cases. When you observe some things which are going wrong, don't immediately react. Let that situation fail, safe to fail when I say, and then have that conversation with your senior management. See, do you think that this failure could have been avoided? What do you think is coming up in the way? Is it something that can we empower our teams? Now, these are the questions what we should be asking when we are doing coaching with our leadership team. And believe me, it's going to be always rinse and repeat. That's the word which I use very quite occasionally. Rinse and repeat means the same messaging, you have to do it again and again. So over communication is the key here, if you ask me. Many times you will find that as coaches, when we want to encourage our leadership to be servant leaders, the same message has to be passed through 2 or 3 different ways, so that they make them realize around it. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions?
Anyone?
Uh, I think Lakshmikant, I'm getting a disturbance from your side.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Is it okay now? Is it okay
No,
now?
no, no, no. The voice is really bad, actually. So, can you type your question? I can answer that if you can type your question.
Uh, is my voice correct now?
No, no, no. No, still I'm not able to hear. Sorry for that.
Let me try to type.
Meanwhile, can I go into the-
Okay, I think there's a question in the chat window. Difference between servant leadership and host leadership. Is that a question? Difference between servant leadership and host leadership? So what, if you can just specify, what do you mean by host leadership as such? I mean, any specific host leadership? Are you referring to the command and control leadership or something else on when you say host leadership? Okay, anyone else with a question? Anyone else with a question?
So, Ashutosh, Albert here. So, what does it take for a teal organization? What does
What's
it
this?
take to become a teal organization?
Okay, what it takes to become a teal organization.
Correct.
Again, yeah. I mean, this knowledge is based on my experience in coaching and what the book talks about. What we talked earlier, right? The leadership should be first bought in. That when they are relinquishing some decision-making capabilities, they are not losing power. See, one of the biggest fear factors which leaders have is that if I relinquish my authority, what will happen to me? Will I become a persona non grata in this organization, and do I have to look for a job? So there are other things which they can do, right? They can bring about an empowering culture. They can bring about branding of the organization. So I think what makes a teal organization stand out is that the leadership is committed to relinquish some of the control. The leadership is not going to poke its nose into every decision which is being made, and they would rather concentrate on some strategic initiatives. So that I would say would distinguish between I would say a teal organization and other type of organization. That's what I would say here.
Okay. So in a teal kind of organization, the there is no power structure. Everyone is a power.
Sorry. In a teal
In a teal
organization structure.
organization,
Mhm.
so there is no power structure or power hierarchy.
Yes, I mean you can say that it's more like a flat structure. What we all talk about it, but rarely we see in our organization.
Yeah, that's what I was also about to ask. So is a flat structured organization
Hmm.
becomes teal,
Correct.
or what extra it takes?
No, that's what I said. It's not just the changing of org structure. It's also about decision making. It's also about granting autonomy, and then the ability of the organization to bounce back. We talked about this, right? Anti-fragile, which means even if there's a crisis, it doesn't mean that your organization will not suffer from crisis, but the rebound is much more faster. So it's like the Indian stock market. I don't know. Okay, I'm not an expert in stock market, but suddenly it has bounced back, right, in last few weeks. That's what we call it as an anti-fragile organization. Now, I'm not going into the history of it. Is there any under player who's playing this and all? But I'm just saying that suddenly the stock market has bounced back, right? And that's what is called as anti-fragile organization. So it was in a crisis mode 1 year back when pandemic hit all of us. But suddenly the stock market is up and bounced back. And so that's what is an example of a teal organization.
Okay.
Okay. This is a question what Lakshmikant was asking. Most of the times I've observed from servant leader that a leader word fades away and only the servant remains. So absolutely right. Bang on target, Lakshmikant. Okay, so what should we do to be a servant leader and also be assertive? Yeah, see, we are saying here that don't be aggressive, but definitely be assertive. See, I have myself seen this problem where, you know what, in one of the engagements I went, the job of this, what Scrum Master was doing in that was, he was setting up meetings. All his job was to set up meetings. All his job was to make sure that the minutes of the meeting, I told you, right, they are getting captured. I mean, this is what I observed in that engagement. And then I said that that I told him upfront, you are not a master of the Scrum process. You are actually a Scrum secretary. You are actually performing the role of a Scrum secretary. We do hear this word, right? Scrum secretary quite often. So I told him that you are actually doing the role of a secretary there. And yes, to answer your question, see, I also believe that this thing is something which I have to take care of. See, I cannot see, I'm relinquishing my authority, but I'm not relinquishing my assertiveness. So it's a wrong notion that servant leaders are mild, that they are not assertive. They definitely have to be assertive. So if things are not moving, they have to challenge the team members. They have to make sure that the team members have answers to those critical questions what we are facing. It's not that just because I'm a servant leader, I'm kind of a mild person there to obey and take orders. I'm there to serve you, but I'm not there to serve your wrong things, right? That is something we need to understand. So if you're following wrong things and you expect me to be a partner in that crime, then definitely that's not the case of a servant leadership, what we need to understand here. Okay, anyone else? Any other question?
Question from Dharmesh is what is usually the starting point,
Sorry,
and what
sorry, what
is
is that?
what is usually the starting point for changing towards servant leadership and all the stuff? How
Okay.
does this work in inorganic organization, that is large scale enterprise kind of
Hmm.
organizations?
No, definitely the starting point is again as a coach, you have to take that stand whether you want to go from a top down approach or a bottom up or you want to do both the things parallelly. But definitely the starting point is start having that conversation. So initial meetings with the leadership team would just be casual connects which you will be having on this subject. But over a period of time, you will have to demonstrate them. You'll have to you'll have to challenge them and say that, okay, let's do a small experiment for next 2 weeks. You don't take decision on this. Let's see what happens. Right? Let us see what happens. And I'm as a coach, I'm willing to take full accountability if something wrong goes. So that could be a starting point. Slowly start asking them to relinquish, slowly asking them to actually make sure that things won't be really bad if you relinquish some of the controls, and see what happens. See what happens. Assume that you are out of action for 2 weeks because of some family leave or some personal time off. What do you do in those cases, right? You still have someone who takes up your role, right? Or someone at the middle management who walks up to that situation. So that's what you have to encourage them, that can we start experimenting those small baby steps and those experiments, so that we see whether what impact it has. What if you're not in office for, let's say, 2 days? Is the work going to stop? Obviously not, right? I mean, each one of us is indispensable, right? So you have to engage in those conversations. Now obviously the pushback will come from leaders. What happens to my role? What happens to me, right? Is my position under threat if that happens? Now that, again, that safety net is what you have to give to that leader, and you have to actually show him or her the mirror, that how things will be better for them rather than becoming worse. Okay, any other question? Just wanted to let you know, next Friday I'm presenting on emotional intelligence and psychological safety. In case anyone is interested, you can register for that session also. It's a free session, so you can register for that session also. I'll ping you the link for that session. It's at the same time. It's the same time we have this session also coming up on psychological safety and emotional intelligence. So if you are interested, do join that session also. Yeah, I'll ping the link shortly. I'll ping the link shortly in this chat window here. Yeah, any other question? So I think we have people.
Any other question?
So I think we have people. Sorry, I'm not able to hear. Sorry, Gururaj, I'm not able to hear you. So this is a link for next Friday's session on psychological safety. I've just pinged you. And yeah, I'm also so this is getting feeded on YouTube also right now. So this is our YouTube channel. If you want to see more such videos, they're available on the YouTube channel. Do subscribe to the channel. You will see more content coming up in next few days also on this YouTube channel. Of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. In case anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, you feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Ashutosh Bhattavadekar is my name. I belong to a place called Pune in India, which is very closer to Mumbai, the commercial capital of India. And of course, before COVID, I used to travel a lot. Now, of course, the post-COVID, all the travel has got restricted now. I'm confined in my apartment right now as we speak for last 1 year.
But
So
we are
definitely love
connecting.
to.
We
Yeah,
are
sorry.
connecting all over the world from our
Sorry.
home. We are
Sorry.
connecting all over the world from our home.
Yes, we are connecting. And I'm very happy to know we had people from across the globe today. So it was really nice to have
Correct.
people from across the globe. I think we had people from all the 5 continents today. I think this is first time which has happened, what I came to know. In any ways, if you have any more questions, do reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So it was wonderful talking to you, sharing my thoughts and listening to the wonderful questions which all of you gave. And looking forward for your support and appreciation as always. So thanks a lot, everyone, and have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you and have a great weekend.